ET Travel World virtual webinar is very, very proud and honored to welcome our very special fireside chat guest, Patu Keswani, who's the chairman and managing director of Lemon Tree Hotels. Patu is also the founder of Lemon Tree Hotels, which is one of the most visionary hospitality companies in the world and definitely in India. Thank you, Patu, for taking time out and being part of this interesting webinar where we are talking about the future of travel and what we can do to really make it a success, because we know that in this industry at least success is right now a little hard to get.
Thank you, Bikramjit. I look forward to conversing with you in this.
Absolutely. So Patu, let's begin by talking about what is happening to the industry right now and where do you see things moving forward?
So I would look at short term, what is going to happen in the next, say, 12 to 24 months, till such time that this virus comes under control. So let me go, without getting into the industry, let me go back into this virus. See, the world has always been plagued with some major form of disease. So in fact, the earliest records are of the time of Justinian, the guy who built the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, in Constantinople then, that's 1600 years ago, when there was a plague of Justinian. So over time, if you notice, some of the very large equivalent to pandemics that have hit the world, one of the largest was in 1457, I think, which was what was called the Black Death. It was the bubonic plague borne by rats. And that, I am told, killed anywhere between quarter to half of Europe. Okay, imagine a plague of that size, right? So the world has gone through this many times. Now, if we look back in the 20th century, there have been three major pandemics. The first was, I think everybody is aware of, is the Spanish flu. Reason it's called Spanish flu is very interesting because Spain reported it. Okay. But it was a global pandemic. It started from Mongolia, we are told. Also, influenza-like illness. It killed, at that time, the population of the world was 1.5 billion, 20% of today. It killed 3% of the world, 50 million people, infected 1/3 of the world, 500 million people. But the amazing thing is, there was no cure for it. It led, ultimately, it was herd immunity. So those who were infected, who could not survive, passed away. The rest had immunity. And in 3 years after that, and this was in the middle of the World War, by the way, Bikramjit, the First World War. In 3 years after that, everybody was back to normal. By the way, people used to use masks, practice social hygiene, all the same stuff we're doing today 100 years ago. 3 years later, human beings, being social animals, went back to normal. So that the broad point I'm making is, my view is that 3 years from now, however this virus comes under control, and I have a view on that, we will be back to normal. Demand will be back to normal, meetings, incentives, conferences, international travel, domestic travel, all that will bounce. Number one. The second flu was, I think, the Asian flu, which was 40 years later in 1958. It killed 1 million people. Same story, over in 2-3 years. The next flu was the Hong Kong flu in 1969. Okay, killed 2 million people. The broad point I'm making is, in all three pandemics or epidemics in some cases, things went back to normal in 3 years. Now, how do they go back to normal? Is due to herd immunity. Enough antibodies are built in enough people who go through the disease or, are part of the population, and then you can't transmit. The transmissibility of the disease disappears. So what are we facing today? For the first time in history, 2 or 3 other things are occurring with this pandemic. The first is, firstly, we've got to keep in mind it's only 3 months old as far as the world is concerned. Of course, in China, it is over 5 months old. My view is that for the first time in history, the whole world, every government, every pharma company, every laboratory is focused on finding a vaccine/a cure. What does a cure do? It operates at the level of severely ill patients, and it prevents mortality. So the way I see it is, now, how will this disease, based on the past pandemics, how will it play out? Because of the unprecedented global attention, there will be some form of cure for even mild to moderate to severe to critical patients. And my guess is this will happen in the next 3 to 6 months, right? As far as the virus vaccine goes, it's iffy because in many cases we never find a vaccine. Like I believe for HIV/AIDS, there is no vaccine even though 35 years has passed.
Mm.
So my guess is actually the following will play out. The vaccine is 50-50, okay? Because by definition, a vaccine cures or immunizes 95% of the population. So I don't know if such a vaccine will be discovered or early enough. My guess is there will be a cure, and over the next year to 2 years, a large enough part of the population will get it and will develop herd immunity. So herd immunity is basic. If enough people get it, the virus can't be transmitted easily.
Mm.
So how will this play out in the hotel space? If you look at the last couple of months, I believe that out of 160,000 branded rooms in India, only or less than 60,000 are operating, which means 60% of the hotel rooms in India in the branded space are shut. As far as demand goes, demand has dropped to 10%. So if it was about 120,000 rooms in February, which is the last month when the virus did not impact us, now it is, I'm told, 12 to 15,000. So supply shutdown 60%, demand destruction 90%.
Mm.
My view is till there is a cure, demand will continue to remain basically very limited and limited also to the virus itself, which is quarantine business, healthcare, maybe even many hospitals, many hotels are becoming adjunct hospitals for COVID positive patients. Even we have some hotels like that. So my guess is that once the cure comes, then there are three segments that consume hotel rooms in India broadly. One is domestic consumption, domestic travel. One is international, one is MICE. My view is that domestic will come back. Okay. When there is herd immunity / vaccine, then international and MICE will bounce back. It will not just come back, it will bounce back.
Mm.
So how does this play out? Next 6 months, domestic demand starts, picks up. Next 18 to 24 months, the other two segments come back into play. So really, in the short run, because of this massive demand destruction and the fact that so many hotels, I mean, all hotels are very capital intensive, many are highly leveraged, and most have very high fixed costs. So the key question will be survive for the next 12 months, and then you have a good shot to thrive after 2 to 3 years. So that is the future as I see it. Interestingly, this is, hotel demand is one proxy is airline demand. And if you notice that I believe the number of airline seats sold every day about a year ago was 270,000. Today it was, I'm told, is under 27,000. So even airline demand is only 10%. And most of it is also people returning back home after being stranded in some other place at the time of the lockdown. So that's the backdrop. Now, I think one big positive outcome of this is going to be that we are all going to review our costs. We are already reviewing it. And I think this industry will become far more cost efficient within the next, by the time demand comes back. So what I expect is there will be the companies and the hotels that survive in this space will be far, far more profitable, partly because of the bounce back in demand, and partly because of much leaner cost structures and much more variabilized cost structures. So that's the backdrop. What do I think is essential? The government support specifically on, to me, there are three areas the government could look at. One is zero cost, which is extend the moratorium on interest and repayment of principal for at least 1 to 2 years. This will save all hotels. They will not become NPAs. They have the ability to pay their debt. We are not asking for a waiver. We are just saying defer it, add it. So basically the interest I have to pay for the next year, year and a half, add it to the loan amount. Don't ask me to pay, increase the loan amount effectively by the deferred interest, and then continue the loan as it was, but after a year or two. That will save many hotels. Otherwise, my fear is not only will many hotels become NPAs, but a lot of hotels will also shut down permanently, and there will be massive loss of jobs. So this is actually a very low cost solution. RBI has given a moratorium twice over, but the problem is that there's no clarity on repayment of interest. So what banks are saying is that you pay us the interest when this moratorium gets over in aggregate, which is in September, which I don't think is a good idea because many hotels are going to then shut down permanently. So short-term demand destruction, which we just spoke about, should not lead to long-term supply destruction. And my concern is this industry, at least 20% of it, of rooms, will shut down permanently if this moratorium is not offered. The other is, of course, the government should realize that most of our hotels are not operating or are operating, close to zero revenues. So they shouldn't charge property taxes, excise. There are multiple taxes the government applies, fixed charges on electricity. These things should be waived, not deferred. Because if you are earning nothing, why do they expect you to pay these taxes? This will protect jobs. And my biggest concern is actually destruction of supply and loss of jobs. Because you see, when you reopen a hotel, if you have not paid your staff, then don't expect their loyalty. So as a company, we have said we will lay off nobody, we will retrench nobody. Sure, there are some staff who've voluntarily asked to go on leave without pay because they want to be with their families in their hometowns. And we've been quite cool about it. But by and large, 90% of our staff are paid their salaries on time every month. Okay, and I think that's very important for us to survive, not only survive, but to thrive going forward.
Now, tell me something, Patu. This is one thing that has always been, I've been thinking about, that going forward, seeing the impact of this pandemic on generally everyone around us, especially those who are not as well off as many of us, is the fact that it's quite a blinding kind of thing and they don't know what they're doing. So going ahead, businesses like your businesses or any businesses, especially in the hospitality industry and in restaurants as well, do you think you need to change the way that you run the business? Not only does it have to be more cost effective, obviously, but your outlook towards the people who work in the business, does that need to change? And if it does, how?
I think you need to realize, you see, any business is its people. That's something I realized because, as you know, I was an executive before I started Lemon Tree. And I always felt that, when a company expects loyalty, service, what does a company take from an employee? It takes time. You see, you can make any amount of money, Bikramjit, or, you want to pursue fame or whatever, glory or what have you. If you are keen enough and, you can get it. But the one thing you cannot get is more time. Your time on earth is fixed, right? So an employee gives time to a company and loyalty, which is the most precious possible gift. And at a time like this, they have every right to expect that the company gives back to them what their loyalty deserves, which is a salary on time, their jobs are safe. And it distresses me to see, and I'm not blaming, for example, restaurants. Restaurants are completely destroyed, right? Retail has been destroyed. Many of the companies cannot afford to pay the employees. It's not a question of choice. It's a question of, inability. So it distresses me what this has done. And what also distresses me, frankly, is the lack of support from government and from financial institutions. I was just chatting with a fellow entrepreneur yesterday, and we were talking about how banks, most banks, at a time like this, when you need them most, withdraw support. It's really sad. Okay. Suppose you are well capitalized, every bank will support you. Suppose you are not, they don't support you. That's terrible. Right. And maybe I am not, you see, I'm not in the business of blaming banks. There are multiple reasons for why this happens. But broadly, my point is that it's the whole ecosystem that goes against you when you're down. And therefore, many of these companies are taking it out, taking, the required cost cuts out from the employees who have given them everything, actually. So how I see this matter is, I think the whole ecosystem needs to realize two things. One is, don't let employees go. Talk to them. If required, say, we'll pay you half wages. I understand that, right? Your jobs are safe. I'm sorry, I'm not earning anything. I'll pay you a sustenance allowance, which is half your salary. Especially the senior people. Senior people, I strongly tell, within our system, we did it. I said, we won't cut the salaries of the associates, who are many thousands. We will cut salaries of senior people who typically are paid 10 times what the associate is paid by 50%. Higher paid resources will take a 66% salary cut. Because you see, if you're earning 75 lakhs a year and now you're paid 25, you'll still survive. But if you're paid 4 lakhs a year, and I tell you, I'm going to cut it by half, it's really cruel. So we've tried to look at ways by which we can reduce our wage bills without being very cruel with our people. Banks, I told you, is the second issue. Government costs are a third, taxes. I think the whole ecosystem has to support each other at a time like this. I'll give you an example. Many of our vendors are micro, medium, small enterprises. If we owe them 20 lakhs of rupees, and I have, by the way, I've got some emails from some small vendors who said, look, we are owed 30 lakhs, 20 lakhs. You've not paid us, and we'll shut down if you don't pay us. So as far as possible, then I have asked our finance department, the small guys, pay them. So two things, pay your salaries, pay the small vendors, keep them alive. So that's my broad, view.
So tell me something, Patu. I mean, everybody in the industry, quite a few people have been quite enthusiastic, at least when they talk to the media about this season, this November, December, January season. What is your view? Are they being over optimistic, or is it good to be optimistic about it? And by the industry, I mean the travel industry as well.
So let's put it this way. It's great to be hope for the best, but plan for the worst. So from my broad point is, sure, hope for it, but plan for this level of demand and pricing, because what we have not talked about is when demand has fallen to this level, pricing has fallen by 50%, by the way. Because if I was charging 5,000 bucks, my ARR was over 5,000 in February. Today it is half of that. Because my customers are no longer there. This is a new set of customers entirely due to the pandemic, right? I mean, I hope that things do bounce back, but I am very, very skeptical about it. My view is that this is going to continue with some marginal improvement in demand and so on for the next 12 to 18 months, as I said. Even the cure will bring back some demand, but there'll be some, think of it, the whole economy is going through pain.
Yeah.
So hotel consumption of rooms is also discretionary. No? So if I was in, say, the auto business, and earlier I would have a bunch of people in sales go travel all over India or, whatever else, I would not be so fussy about the cost. Today I would be. I'd say, listen, don't travel unless it is absolutely essential. Avoid staying in hotels unless it is absolutely essential. So these discretionary expenses will be curtailed till demand comes back. So if demand comes back, and I pray that whoever has said it, who's been bullish, is right, which I think is very unlikely, by the way, then it'll become a virtuous cycle. Right now, don't plan on it.
Yeah, we have recently heard the fact that Imperial College has started doing human tests for their vaccine. And they were saying that it's never been done this fast. Normally, it takes years for the human tests to start. It just means that people are really speeding things up for whatever. Whether it works or not is another matter.
Even if it works, see, what will happen is, Vikramjit, a normal vaccine takes 10 years to develop. It's a very long, laborious, torturous process. So we'll accelerate it, right? You think it'll take less than 2 years? Maybe there'll be compassionate use, maybe there'll be XYZ, but there is no compassionate use. Actually, I take that back. In vaccines, vaccines are preventive. My view is curative will come in. So vaccines will take care of, infection. Curative, which is cures or therapeutic cures, will take care of survival.
Okay.
So I'm very hopeful of cures. I'm very unsure about a vaccine, especially a vaccine in time.
Okay, so finally, let me talk about the travel industry as a whole. And viewers should be interested to see that you've actually traveled during this conversation, since we are in a travel seminar. So tell me a little bit from your point of view, what the travel industry as a whole, which obviously, I don't know, still to an extent is looking at international as a big source, or is looking at the bigger events. What should they do to survive? Because right now, as you said, it's a question of surviving, not of thriving.
I think what you need to survive is capital, cash. So I would say the single most important step any business has to take, especially in an industry like ours, which is among the worst affected, is conserve capital. Raise money, keep it with you, keep cash, be liquid, minimize your expenses. I think, ultimately, if you have no business, and obviously being maybe a little optimistic and saying, don't lay off your staff, then talk to them. Tell them, listen, guys, next 1 year, there are no jobs actually right now, Bikramjit. So even if you lay off somebody, he or she has no option, unfortunately. So the way to do it, I would say, is bring your employees online and aligned with you and say, look, guys, I know that, you were paid whatever, but now I have this much cash and I'm assuming, let me plan the worst till October next year. That's the earliest I would see a bounce coming. So till October next year, which is 15 months, I'm going to pay you half your salary or whatever I can pay you, quarter, half, whatever. I'm not getting into the numbers based on my liquidity. And I'm going to cut costs to the board. And I'm going to make sure that irrespective of revenue, I have enough runway, cash to burn, to go till October. I think any business in our space that does this will survive.
What about this whole thing of, domestic travel coming up, which is what we are hearing?
I'm not seeing it happen. I'm seeing OTA demand picking up, but it is most occasional, more local people who are, feeling trapped to go to a hotel for a night just as a break. But regular business travel, no. Leisure travel, hardly any. There are a few people who are traveling, driving to nearby locations. MICE, zero. International, zero. So I don't see it coming back, actually. I think till this issue is resolved of fear. You see, it's not an economic crisis, unfortunately. It is much worse. It is a health crisis, which is leading to an economic crisis. So this is a double whammy. Fear of health leading to destruction of demand. So till the main issue is sorted out, see, even the economy has got severely impaired now. No? Yeah. I don't agree. I keep reading these. I find it amusing that I read these reports by various agencies, like Moody's or Fitch or some bank, saying the economy will contract by 2% or will only grow 1%. I mean, that is ridiculous. Let's talk simple numbers. In the shutdown of April and May, it is 1/6 of the year. I reckon at least, 1/6 is 16%. Okay, if I include June, it is 25%. Are you telling me that economic activity has been even half of normal in these 3 months? No way. So if I take half of 25, the economy has shrunk by 12. My guess is that there will be a minimum 10, in the best case, to 20% contraction in GDP this year. Okay? Now, it's obvious. I don't need to be an economics genius or, statistician. I mean, just look at the numbers. Look around you. What's happened? Right? So it has to be 10%. That is the level of contraction in this economy. Yes, the bounce back will be, hopefully, good. And we'll catch up. So next year, maybe the economy will grow 10-15%. Okay? On a low base. But certainly the contraction this year will be enormous. And is it not reflected, Bikramjit? Numbers are saying that over 100 million people are jobless. 25% in April and May. I believe it's now improved. 100 million, 25% of the total workforce. Okay. Now take out agriculture. It means in the 84% of the economy, which is services and manufacturing. Certainly there has been massive job losses and massive contraction of GDP.
What you've painted for us is a really true picture, but it's a grim picture. But I'm sure, as you said, if we manage to trim down our costs and hunker down, we will be able to survive this period. Patu, I want to thank you for being part of the conversation, and I hope we meet in better times.
I'm sure we will, but the broad message is this too will pass.
Yes, and I'm praying that you're wrong, and by November, December, things start looking up.
Well, I'm praying I'm wrong too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.